I'm Manuela Nagel from the IPK, from the Leibniz Institute for Plant Genetics and Plant Research in Gartesleben, and I'm responsible here within the gene bank for the cryopreservation and the maintenance of clonal plants, and have some direct link to the curators. And in the frame of this experience, I was asked to develop the global strategy on potato conservation, which is actually a global assessment of the potato genetic resources which exist globally, but also on the national level, a very detailed study on how the conservation status of our potato genetic resources is. And all in one, the conservation with all the details provides a kind of roadmap then at the end for policymakers, for scientists, but also for farmers, how and what they can use from gene banks and from our potato diversity. Yes, so after the Crop Trust approached me and asked me to take the lead in the development of the potato strategy, we actually drafted a survey which we sent to many curators, many gene banks, and at the end 32 gene banks responded. The curator responded to the survey, and based on the first preliminary analysis of this result of the survey, we drafted the outline of a meeting. And as this was still Corona times, we had a chance to meet online, so that at the end 90 participants from all these different gene banks could meet. This was actually in 2021, and talk about really important challenges for potato conservation. And this included taxonomy issue, this included genotyping issue, new breeding tools. After this was clarified and discussed, some of these experts joined me in writing the strategy, so that we at the end come to finally to one strategy, including all the backgrounds and priority at the end of potato conservations, or for potato conservation. So the Crop Trust approached me, and together so especially Peter Giovannini, we drafted the survey. We sent this, and the Crop Trust specifically sent out also part of the surveys. I also approached the different gene banks directly, and then together we brought together ideas for the specific meeting, drafted the program, so that at the end we could draft together the structure. And the Crop Trust had a specific role, of course, to check also the correctness of this procedure, to go back to the experts and ask specific details which were not clear, so that they have helped really at the end to provide a comprehensive and correct strategy. And at the final end, the Crop Trust did also all the layouting and advertising of this specific potato strategy. Of course, I try to provide really a comprehensive overview on the potato genetic resource, including the topic where it comes from, what's the taxonomic background, how was the domestication of potato, where can you find in situ collections nowadays. And then we come to the point of where we integrated the survey, and providing a very comprehensive view on the ex situ conservation, including how are the collections composed of, how's the viability and regeneration status. What else? How is the data management? So all these very specific points were included in separate chapters, And at the end, we try to really summarize all the challenges in a list of priorities, what needs to be done for the future. The value is that it provides an overview of very detailed information about the potato genetic resources, but also it gives an overview on the global and on the national level, let's say both. And for both, it provides some information, including strategies, how to overcome that, what needs to be done for the future. And at the national level, it provides details how the countries need to improve their conservation system. And both, of course, is important to really help at the end to maintain this very important resource. Yeah. In addition, especially on the national level, the information can be used also to set up small projects, for example, to overcome and to support the maintenance of the genetic resources. The strategy meets especially this specific point. So we especially worked on the points of conservation, exploration, collection, characterization. And this means, for example, the potato genetic resources that are one of the genetic resources which has the most complex conservation system behind, because we have on the one side the varieties, for example, which need to be maintained clonally. And on the other side, we also have wild species which needs to be maintained or which can be maintained as seeds. And seed conservation is well developed, for example, because you can maintain the seeds at -18 degrees and then you put it in a backup storage. But clonal collections are very difficult. So, and here we have especially the countries, the Latin American countries, which do often field conservation. But this is very risky. So, and therefore, especially Western countries have developed in vitro propagation, or international gene banks have often in vitro propagation, and this needs to be backed up in cryo. And all this information are provided in the strategy. So all these specific conservation approaches, together also with an overview which type of data management system has been developed. For example, here it's in the potato strategy. It's interesting to know that, for example, 13 gene banks have implemented a gene bank information system, whereas all the other gene banks still working on Excel sheets and partly papers. So that is something of as an example of very detailed information. Or that for 19 gene banks, for example, they provide their data via this international aggregator system like Eurisco and Genesis, whereas other doesn't provide this information. And these are very specific information which have been provided in the strategy and focus on this point of Article 5 in the treaty. This is really dependent on accessibility of the collection and also knowledge about the collection. And here we know already that most unique genetic resources, for example, are in Latin America. But especially in Latin America, most gene banks doesn't really have comprehensive data management systems. It's hardly possible for them to provide these data online or via the via any of these system aggregator system. And for this, it's very hard for breeders to understand which type of material is available. And then, of course, it's also hardly accessible. So how they get material, what they don't know. And this, of course, this challenged the sustainable use of the plant treaty, and therefore the strategy provides really a comprehensive detail of this fact about the challenges in this regard. In addition, sustainable use is also related to research, and we try to focus in the research what is the most updated research topic at the moment. So it's especially in terms of diseases, there's research going on concerning late blight, for example, PV, as a potato virus Y and potato virus X, but all the other diseases are very rarely studied. So this needs to be developed, for example, and also it provides an overview of the most recent development of breeders and researchers who would like to change this clonal crop, for example, into a crop which you can use via botanical seeds, which is a very interesting recent development. And of course, this kind of direction needs to be supported internationally, and therefore you need awareness, and you need to have this kind of details, which is in the in Article 6 of the plant treaty described. Yeah. So in the strategy, we try to get an overview which of these 32 gene banks have assigned to the multilateral systems, and we realized especially that those countries where the most unique accession, for example, in the Latin America, have, for example, not assigned to the multilateral system, such as Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Guatemala, at least at this time point when we developed, have not assigned to the multilateral system, and sometimes provide institute-specific material transfer agreement, which at least supports the accessibility of the collection, but some collections are not accessible at all. And this, of course, confers the sustainable use of this collection and the use of this specific genetic resources for breeders then also. This is a relatively easy to answer because the crop networks is there, is the basis for the strategy, because we all the expertise and especially the additional experts are somehow combined in this crop networks. In my mind is specifically the ECPGR, the European Commission for Plant Genetic Resources, which have assigned different crop networks and also a potato networks. And there we have, of course, a lot of European experts joined in this ECPGR. And they were also present in the meeting and supported at the end the strategy. And so the strategy is developed based on the experience in these crop networks. And on the other side, the priorities which have been developed, they go also back into these crop networks, because they can take these specific points and try to improve this in the specific gene banks. Yeah, as mentioned already, we have about 90 gene banks which provide access. So based on this potato gene bank of the 32 gene banks which gave details, we have 90 gene banks which provide data, and most of them provide their data also into this international aggregator system like Eurisco on the European side, and Genesis on the international level. So it's very tightly connected to this global information system. However, when you see it on the other side, I checked the data, for example, in Eurisco. We have 15,000 accessions on potato, or 19,000 if you take synonyms in account. And in Genesis, we have, including Eurisco, 28,000 active potato accessions, or plus 25,000 accessions on Solanum tuberosum, which is handled differently, obviously. But if you both take this together, it's something more than 53,000. But on the international level, we have more than 18,000 accessions, potato accessions listed. And this probably does not include all the potato accessions. So the strategy gives an overview what data are available in these international systems, and gives also an idea where are the gaps, what needs to be done to really make all these resources available. And it gives also an idea for the DOI system. I mean, some years ago, the FAO implemented this digital object identifier, and they're freely available via the GLIS systems, the GLIS portal. And these DOIs, which you can combine with each accession, helps to trace the accessions for breeding, for research, etc. And it's a very tight connection which should be developed here, and between this DOI and accession number. And these needs to be also integrated. So these are integrated on this international platforms, but more needs to be done in this direction to really make the potato accession accessible, and also the data which are connected to this potato accessions, like characterization and evaluation. This needs to be also accessible, and the DOI system can help. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think this is not only specific to the potato genetic resources. This is more general for all the potato strategy. I mean, the first thing is the awareness about the strategy, which is important. The strategy have been developed from a very small communities. Here in this case is the potato community, including this 32 gene banks. I mean, it's overall, it's 1/3 of all gene banks who maintain potato collections. However, in the strategy, mostly the curators and few breeders participated. That means not the whole community is aware that such a strategy exists at all. So here more needs to be done that really all the different levels of researchers, breeders, farmers have an idea about the availability of the genetic resources. And then to talk about overall, I mean, to bring this into the treaty process, probably we need to somehow standardize or standardize this information from the different strategy, and to bring the key information in one data sheet, which are somehow equal to all the different crops, and make them available. At the moment, I mean, the strategies have each probably about 100 pages, so it's really hard accessible via this treaty community. But if you try to standardize and try to take out key information and to bring them together on one platform where you have all the more than 20 strategies together, this maybe can help to understand the key points, the key challenges for each crop, and to make it easier digestible for people who are in this treaty development, because that might be not only crop potato experts that are also other experts from different fields, and they don't know the specific details in potato, but they want to have a general overview. And for them, you need key points, kind of data sheets for each crop, and to have key information which are standardized somehow. In the strategy, we based on all the information we put together from the survey, from the literature, from the different experts, we prioritized. At the end, we had 10 priorities which we identified, and they are at a different level. So we have them priorities which can be implemented on a global level and implemented on a national level. Of course, those are priorities which needs to be implemented on a global level need to be also, of course, somehow handled at the global level. And here the treaty can help to negotiate and to support this process. For example, we identified the necessity for cryo storage, for international backup solution for cryopreservation, or we need a harmonization of taxonomy, for example. This cannot be done by a specific country. This needs to be done by the international community of experts at different universities. And here the treaty can really try to negotiate and to support this development, also network and training. This is very similar for all the potato gene banks, and this could be handled on an international level, so that here the treaty can help on the international level to join forces and to help to develop this, to develop and to move forward, for example, these specific priorities. On a country level, for example, this is a different issue. I mean, the treaty can help also to negotiate between with specific countries, but this needs to be done very on a bilateral basis, because the challenges are very specific for each of the countries. Because we have different policymakers. And here, for example, maybe some small projects can help, for example, to maintain specific in situ population, to go for specific collection missions. So here, really the small project might help, where the treaty can contribute some money to do that. This is related to the importance of potato, right? I mean, the potato is nowadays the third most important food crop, and in the last 60 years, actually, the global potato production rose by about 40%, which is immense. And especially countries like China, India, Russia, Ukraine, that are the global players in terms of potato production. So they have huge amounts of potato produced as a basis, as a really staple crop. But these countries are not in the country of origin, so they really need to take care where they got their potato resources, because at the end we have climate change, we have all these challenges in the last years, which really challenges potato production. And if we do not adapt this crop to new conditions, to new climate change conditions, it will be not the third food crop anymore, because there are so many diseases which can harm the potato production, that you really need to see how to breed in the direction of higher temperature, low water use, for example. We need the potato genetic resources for future and for the maintenance of our food security. Yes, so the strategy is available, of course, on the website of the Crop Trust, but also it has a DOI, which is accessible via our IPK eDAL system. That's an archive system which is permanent. And for researchers, it might be, so those who are registered at the research gate, it's also accessible via this link.